Let's move on to our next guy that we talked about on our last podcast, Pascal Siakam. Caleb, he's had a lot of problems in Toronto, as we mentioned, right? And things have not gotten any better. Toronto is at the bottom of the East right now. What's their record right now? They're 1-5.
Very stinky.
1-5 for a team that a lot of people thought would improve, especially after last year and bringing back Fred Van Fleet. They got Alex Len. They got Aaron Baines. I mean, these are not big name guys, but Toronto already had a good team last year, and people thought Nick Nurse was a better coach than he is. Now, if Nick Nurse is overrated, that's kind of a topic for another day. But what do you think is going on with the Raptors right now? I have no clue what I'm seeing. I mean, I don't get to watch too much of them, but just from an outsider perspective, I watched one like bit of their game last game against Boston, and I'm sure you can speak more on it because you guys played them. But the commentators were like, Siakam made like this left hand layup, right? And the commentators were like, let's go together. And they're like, that away, that away. Like they were cheering on Siakam nervously because you could tell they were trying to root him on, like, oh my God, let's get this guy back on track. You know what I mean? It was just a really off vibe. I could even tell from the commentators. Like you could feel Siakam struggles from how they were speaking.
Yeah. There was one play where Siakam had Peyton Pritchard in the post and they dumped it into him. And Pritchard just backed up and was like, do what you want. And he traveled. Like he didn't even get a shot off. And it's amazing to me that he's taken this far of a step back. And in terms of why the Raptors are struggling, I think a lot of it has to do with they kind of banked on Siakam struggling just with the bubble, right? Because before the bubble, he was averaging like 23. And like but it just like everything went backwards for him, which is very weird. Lowry looks fine. Van Vliet looks fine. I think Van Vliet had 31 in that game. They both look good, but like Norman Powell, he isn't giving you anything off the bench really. Malachi Flynn, they tried to play a little bit. I think those were his first minutes of the season, actually, according to Raptors fans, and he didn't look that good. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a lot of it's just trying to incorporate like the two bigs that are new. Because Baines didn't look that good. He missed an easy layup. Alex Len, he's more of like an enforcer guy anyways. Like he's not going to put up big numbers. He's more just a tough guy out there. So they don't really, I don't know. It's just Siakam taking that step back, I really think screwed up a lot of what they wanted to do. Plus, they have the most blown 20-point leads by anybody through like the first 5 games of a season. And last game when they played the Celtics, they went up 18-5 or something, like right away. And because they started 6 of 7 from deep, and then they couldn't hit anything the rest of the game. Like they shot, everything was just off. It was weird, man.
And I wonder how much of that really falls on Nick Nurse. And the players aren't really going to blame him, but you got to wonder at this point, because of his relationship with Siakam, they do not like each other. That's apparent. It's obvious just from an outsider's perspective. I'm sure Raptors fans know more on the inside as far as how that relationship isn't good.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that they have taken accountability. Fred Van Fleet said after their last game against Boston that this is uncharted territory, and he said he's never been a part of anything like this, but he said no one's going to come save them and that they got to do this themselves. Nick Nurse said the same thing. He said it's on everybody, including himself, and he just said that they're not guarding. And Kyle Lowry spoke a little bit. He also said that they need to get a little bit grittier and tougher. So I think they're all aware of the way they're playing, and that's good that they're holding accountability for it. But at the same time, accountability isn't going to give you wins. You got to figure something out. And right now, Toronto has not looked great at all. They haven't looked good. If we're being honest, they have not looked good. And to me, they might have to make a change this year. Masai Ujiri might look at someone like Pascal, and he might have to look at someone like Kyle Lowry and be like, hey, what can I get for some of these guys?
Yeah, I agree. I would bet on them figuring it out, but like the more this goes on and they keep struggling to hold any sort of a lead, it's like the more likely it is that one of those two guys gets traded. It would suck to see Lowry traded because I do think he's probably the most important Raptor ever to some of the fans up there. He got them their first championship. I know Kawhi was there to help, but he was kind of there, grew there, developed there. Seeing him get traded would really suck, but it's one of those things where it's kind of time to maybe move on from that era. I know that sounded insane to think about because they just won a championship 2 years ago, but like Siakam isn't that young guy they thought he was. They just gave Fred VanVleet all that money. it's time to let him take that next leap. You know what I mean, in terms of responsibility and everything. Maybe they do look to trade away Kyle Lowry at the trade deadline this year.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I mean, we don't know if they'll really be able to figure it out. I'm sure they will, like you said, but if they don't, Toronto's in some uncharted territory and they're not going to be where they want to be come playoff time.